All right, we should be live. What is up, everyone? We are back. Sorry, we missed last week. Last week was kind of busy, and then also, honestly, not a ton going on. I mean, that Knicks series went super fast, and essentially, we just had the Western Conference Finals, which everyone, except for me, probably wanted it to go to Game 7. We'll get into it, but obviously we have our finals matchup with the San Antonio Spurs versus the New York Knicks, a repeat of 1999 finals, where the Spurs, what they won in 5, right? Gentlemen sweep against, I believe, Patrick Ewingless Knicks team. So let's go ahead and I guess we can go ahead and hop into it. NBA Finals. I lost, at least for me, it was like unit size, several units this past week with the Thunder not closing out Game 6. Granted, it was in San Antonio, but man, how good does San Antonio, or how well the Spurs play in San Antonio is insane. And then, of course, Game 7, Spurs were just the better team. You really see the loss of Jalen Williams, not the ugly guy, Jalen Williams, J-Dub, in that loss, as well as AJ Mitchell. And yeah, like I can truthfully say San Antonio was by far the better team in this entire series.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were both rooting on Oklahoma City. You mentioned that you had the Oklahoma City Thunder -1.5 series spread. Yeah, like you said, Spurs were kind of just the better team. Series definitely would have been different. I go beyond just Jalen Williams because he missed over half the season, the regular season, and missed, over half the playoff games. I think the key piece that went down was unfortunately AJ Mitchell. I'm a Laker fan, and I'm very, very, very familiar with him as he absolutely cooked us on the Thunder's way to sweeping us in the last round. But yeah, I mean, Wemby was incredible, but you have to, take your hat off to the other, I guess, role players or even starters. Supporting cast, Stephon Castle really shined. Dylan Harper, not rookie of the year, but just a rookie. Who else? Julian Champagnie, who actually was cut by the Philadelphia 76ers a few years back to make room for Mac McClung to be in the slam dunk contest. So I know the Sixers are definitely kicking themselves for that because he definitely balled out during the series.
Yeah, him and a guy on the other team,
Jared McCain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they traded him at the deadline this season, thinking that they traded high on him. I really liked him last year as a rookie. Just he tore his meniscus pretty early on in the season and then had a tough time reintegrating himself into the lineup with, VJ and Tyrese coming into their own respectively. But yeah, I mean, you got to love it for the NBA. This is kind of what they want. I know he's not an American player, but you can just see the passion he has for the game kind of demonstrate itself when they won, him, crying, embracing his teammates. But you've seen it before with the All-Star game, him saying, I'm going to try, and like dunking immediately or blocking a shot, like the first possession of the first, mini game of that new All-Star format. So, yeah, I like Shea. I know he's a foul baiter, but, I mean, you saw in Game 7 that when he wants to lock in and kill you in basically anywhere, but especially in the mid-range, he definitely can. But I think this is the series that the NBA wanted, kind of, as Mike said, a rematch of 1999. But, yeah, Wemby versus the biggest market on the planet, New York City. So it should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, it should be a really good one. And tickets, I actually kind of looked at tickets. Tickets were insane when they first came out. I don't know what the tickets are right now, but I think they've somewhat cooled off a little bit. I don't know. I'm keeping my eye out, but at the same time, I don't know if we'll drop $1,000 to go see the Spurs play. If it was the Mavs, dude, in 2024 when the Mavs made the finals, I was planning on, I believe it was Game 5, because they didn't have home court advantage. I believe they were the 5th seed that year. So, I believe it was Game 6 then.
Yeah, it would be Game 6, but it didn't make it.
Yeah, it didn't make it to 6. I was thinking of 4. I was thinking of 4 and 6. 4, then they ended up just getting destroyed. I can't even remember what game they won. They might have won I think they won Game 4 because it was 3-0. They were down 3-0. But yeah, unfortunately, I would have gladly dropped $1,000 to watch the Mavs play. But Spurs, but I'll keep my eye out. Should be a really great series, and I know the Spurs were pretty dominant. Let's be honest. I mean, for the fact, even though it did go to 7, OKC's no scrub of a team. Unlike, let's be honest, pretty much every single team that the Knicks have played. And to give the Knicks credit, they handled pretty much every single one of those teams. They did handle every single one of those teams. But this is the true test. It will be interesting to see how much of a rest component plays in the finals. Obviously, the Knicks having a huge rest advantage, basically having a whole week off, versus the Spurs having to play a 7-game series against the Thunder, which was very physical, and only getting 2 or 3 days off before Game 1, which is tomorrow. But we'll get into it. I agree with Spencer. I lost a good amount of money this past week, unfortunately, with the -1.5 season spread, which was looking real good. Honestly, I think it low-key came down to Game 1. The fact that they lost the Game 1, of course, you never want to blame it on one single game of the series because it is a 7-game series, but still, to lose that game in double overtime is a heartbreaker for them. If they win that game, they win Game 2, they go 2-0 going into San Antonio, probably steal a game. You're looking at 3-1 versus 3-2, which totally changes the series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we can discredit a Game 1. I don't know how much you really want to talk about the Knicks-Cavs series, but I feel like the Cavs losing that Game 1 absolutely took all the wind out of their sails, and I think it would have been a more competitive series, maybe not a different outcome.
Sure. But do you think it would have really changed that much in that series?
I could have seen it going to 6.
I mean, I was hoping for it. I lost on that one too. I put Cav plus 2.5, and they can even do that.
Yeah, but when you have a historical meltdown, like I had that game.
Yeah, I had Cavs plus 7.5. Actually,
I had Cavs
plus 9.5.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you. Cavs plus 9.5, and then I think it was the over, and the over I don't think would have hit without overtime. But I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, we got it still. All you got to do is not lose by 10 points in overtime.
10 points. Yeah. But to be fair, I think you've been on a winning streak since then. And honestly, I haven't really bet anything because I've been busy with other stuff. But at the same time, it's just I've just been sick after losing those decently big for me, comparatively to my bankroll, futures bets or series bets. Okay, I guess we can go into Thunder offseason. What does it look like? I know me and Spencer have been talking about this. It's do they trade someone? Clearly the Spurs are the team in the West to beat. I know there are several other teams, imagine a healthy Timberwolves or even just a healthy Ant Edwards playing against the Spurs, and they took him to 6, with him probably being 50%, if not lower than that. And a healthy, Nuggets, I don't know if they're really in contention nowadays. Jokic is still doing his thing. Honestly, I still think Jokic is still the best player in the NBA. But they have their own issues with just depth and team construction. And then there's a lot of other teams in the West. You never know what the Mavs can do. I have a plan for the Mavs. We'll talk about, this is not the podcast for this. We'll talk about that come draft day. But what should the OKC, if you're the GM, if you're Sam Presti of the Oklahoma City Thunder, what do you need to do in order to be competitive in the West to go back to another finals and win another championship?
I mean, like you said, we were texting back and forth during Game 7 because it seemed like the Spurs were going to take it. There's a little bit of uneasiness with the Thunder still at home and having to come back, but then Luke Cornett did his best LeBron James impersonation on Isaiah Hartenstein, and that kind of sealed the game. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear they have a trump card, and it's to go get that Greek guy from Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have a ton of assets, and I feel like, maybe it wouldn't get it done considering his 4-point Game 7 performance, but building a trade around Chet Holmgren and trying to go get somebody who's probably the closest thing to a Wemby stopper that there is. Going to go get Giannis.
How much would you give up for him?
Yeah, obviously Giannis is a better player than Wemby. Giannis is a better player than Chet. So you can't just do a swap right there. But I'm apprehensive to give up some of the other players, especially like I mentioned, AJ Mitchell. I was very impressed how he played in the postseason, even in the regular season. He kind of knocked Aaron Wiggins out of the rotation, who was heavily involved the season prior. But I don't know. Who do you feel like has the most trade value out of, the following players? AJ Mitchell, Hasten Wallace, Jared McCain, and Alex Caruso. Rank those 1 through 4.
Oh, and I'm ranking them as in terms of winning a championship, not necessarily
value to an NBA
value
franchise.
to an NBA championship as soon as possible. I would say, what'd you say? Caruso, McCain, Wallace, and AJ Mitchell. I would say Caruso is number 1. I think he has the most impact out of all of the players, both offensively and, specifically defensively, but offensively as well. I'm just looking at his stats. He shot 50% from 3 for the entire series. Average 2.9. Looking at the West Finals stats right now, 2.9 threes made per game. So definitely him. I'd say he's number 1. And honestly, I don't think it's that close. And then number 2, I would have to say in this series, probably Cason Wallace. I know Jared McCain really stepped up and started, especially since both J-Dub and AJ Mitchell were out of the lineup. I really like what I see from Cason Wallace because he's very much a two-way player. The issues I see with Jared McCain and AJ Mitchell, why I list them not in the top 2, is their size. Jared McCain's 6'2", 6'3", and then AJ Mitchell is 6'2", 6'3" as well. That's relatively small, and they're not super beefy guys. So they're a little bit of a defensive liability, as I would say. You even saw that in the series whenever they would switch. They have they can't guard a Stephon Castle. So I would say Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace is capable of guarding a Stephon Castle, and he actually ripped him several times. So I would say Cason Wallace, and he also shot 50% from 3, averaging 2.6 3-pointers made. And then I would probably pick. I would pick AJ Mitchell 3rd, and he was hurt, so it's hard, and I know there's lots of recency bias of Jared McCain. And I really like what I see from Jared McCain, but
as far as like an impact player of seeing AJ Mitchell do in the regular season, he kind of fumbled a little bit in the playoffs, and that's something that you do have to look at. I think he can kind of get out of the funk. So I'd say AJ Mitchell 3 and then Jared McCain 4.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I should have specified like not in like I'm sure maybe to Oklahoma City that's where they value it. I still feel like they value it similarly to how other franchise would value it in terms of just overall value. And while it is, I would agree that Caruso provides the most impact, I guess, this last postseason, now that their season's ended, and maybe even next postseason. But just in terms of sheer value.
Yeah, so if we talk about trade value, Case and Wallace.
Yeah, just teams that are
Case
looking
Wallace,
like
AJ Mitchell. I would say Caruso is probably third. And then actually, I'd take that back. I say Case and Wallace number 1 because of his age and his impact. I would say Caruso, honestly, number 2. Like, I don't know off the top of my head what his contract is, but for the amount of impact that he has, sure, he's not as young as these other guys, but I don't know if Milwaukee would necessarily want him. They would probably prefer like an AJ Mitchell type player. But from a other competitor standpoint, if this happens to get into like a 3-team trade, Caruso would probably be in the mix for that because he's very valuable to any contending team. And then AJ Mitchell, I would say Jared McCain last still.
Interesting. Yeah, I would probably, my order would actually be AJ Mitchell number 1, followed by Case and Wallace, Alex Caruso 3, and Jared McCain 4. I was trying to pull up their stats regular season wise. AJ Mitchell averaged 13.6 points per game. Case and Wallace averaged 8.6. And I don't know. I just watched the Lakers series intently, obviously, because they're my team.
True. I didn't watch that series this much.
And just seeing AJ Mitchell is a shot creator, and that's a super big commodity in today's NBA. He's not the defender Case and Wallace is, but just being able to go get a bucket. And, I think percentage-wise, Case and Wallace may have him, but he was kind of shooting lights out in the playoffs. And you could definitely feel his impact when he went down with that ankle injury against the Spurs because Shea no longer could really play off ball and kind of take plays off because if he wasn't involved in the action, nobody else was facilitating the offense. And just watching AJ Mitchell, I think people were even comparing him to like, you'll probably think it's blasphemous, and it is, but like a light James Harden, just the way he was able to get to the rim and just do circus shots in the rim.
I would compare him a little bit to like a Timu Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, no, I heard the Jalen Brunson
kind of similar play style.
Yeah, and I mean, look at Jalen Brunson. He's taken a team to the NBA Finals. I mean,
very true.
Call it tainted what you want because they missed the Celtics, but they played who's in front of them, and that's kind of how the playoffs go. But yeah, I would just value AJ Mitchell slightly higher than Case and Wallace. I really do like Case and Wallace. That Oklahoma City did decide to part with them. Number 1, I think they'd be crazy, and number 2, Rob Pelinka or trying to get him because he can hoop. And yeah, I mean Jared McCain unfortunately last, even though he's younger than Caruso. He's a great shooter and was doing a little bit on the ball, kind of creating a shot. But Caruso's last playoffs in their championship run, he was guarding Jokic and doing a pretty good job at that. So speaks to the level of player he is and how incredible the Lakers front office is for choosing THT, Taylor Horton Tucker, over him. So I'll probably never get over that one.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, you guys have your mishaps. We freaking traded Luka. So and Jalen. Well, we didn't re-sign Jalen Brunson. To be fair, Jalen Brunson became the player he is because he went to New York. I don't think he would have been the caliber player in Dallas. Sure, he would have been successful. I still think there would have been difficulties having both him and Luka, two ball dominant guards that don't really play a ton of defense. So, all right, let's talk about matchup for the finals. We have the finals. They're finally bringing back the Larry O'Brien Trophy to the NBA Finals court, which is reminiscent of when was the last time they did that? Back when the Lakers had the repeat, right? Or three-peat. Or no, repeat.
Sounds familiar, but I'm not sure 100%, but probably around that time.
Yeah. Who's a better matchup for the Knicks, the Spurs or the OKC Thunder? Obviously, the Spurs are going to play them, but if you're the Knicks, who are you rooting for?
Yeah, I mean, I think season series, it only shows that the Knicks split the San Antonio Spurs. The Knicks actually beat them one other time, but that game kind of just goes off into space because it's the NBA Cup. But they did beat them in the NBA Cup, which is once again just more narrative to this finals matchup. But I think it's definitely San Antonio. They beat Oklahoma City. That series could have easily gone either way, especially with a completely healthy Oklahoma City. But the inexperience, I feel like they match up better. Oklahoma City just has a lot more weapons, and yeah, I think the Knicks are elated to be facing San Antonio instead of Oklahoma City.
Yeah, honestly, initially I would have probably said you'd rather face the Spurs because they're a young, inexperienced team rather than OKC, who, of course, is a young team, but they're experienced because they just won the championship. Versus the Knicks, they don't have championship experience other than Mike Brown as an assistant coach, but they do have experienced playoff players, which, I mean, I've been crediting a lot more, but obviously that hasn't been the case for the Spurs team. They literally put up a stat in Game 7. It's like amount of players on the Spurs roster that have played in a Game 7, and there was one, and that was De'Aaron Fox. So they're kind of disproving the whole like experience matters mantra. So I know we talked about the cup, and I try not to pull because that was like such a long time ago and not super relevant. But Wemby didn't have a necessarily great game. 7 for 17, 2 for 6 for 3, 2 for 4 from the free throw line. I believe he was also somewhat injured, or in a sense, because he was coming off the bench. So I think that plays a big factor into it, why they lost. But yeah, as I watch the series, and especially after that Game 7, if I'm a Knicks fan, I'd be like, oh, shoot, I kind of wanted maybe OKC to win because you can see what the Spurs are capable of. And with the news, I know he says he's going to attempt to play, and he is trying to play. Mitchell Robinson having a broken finger, I believe. That makes a huge difference if he's, one, not able to play, two, if he's like playing at 50%. Who's going to guard Wemby? Cat? Or maybe I can't remember how they did it in the Cup final. Maybe try a little OG Anunoby on him. But yeah, if I'm a Knicks fan, watching that Game 7, I was maybe kind of hoping maybe you'd rather play OKC. We see OKC's flaws against the Spurs team. Spurs don't really look like they have many flaws except for just getting Wemby in foul trouble.
Yeah, I mean, Brunson is a few inches shorter than Shea, and even Shea, you could see during the series just pulling the ball out whenever Wemby was down low. I think I saw a video today kind of showing how how the Knicks ran offenses against Wemby, because Wemby is a defense strategy in and of itself. They were just Wemby tends to play off of like the weakest player on offense, just so he's able to run, similar to like Anthony Davis,
Josh Hart.
I think they would kind of just bring basically all their offense up to like beyond the 3-point line, kind of run guard screens off there, and then just when the guards are rolling, they can roll obviously a lot faster than the big men, and Wemby might have to help, and it's easier to find players that are open with Wemby having to basically guard two people at the same time. But yeah, other matchups that are interesting is just like similar to what we talked about with other Knicks series, just the Knicks kind of forward depth of like OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges versus the Spurs kind of guard forward situation. Devin Vassell, Julian Champagny. You could probably even throw Stephon Castle in there, just being like a 6'5" guard. Just seeing how they match up, seeing if the Spurs can continue to shoot lights out, but also likewise the Knicks, because the Knicks were absolutely unconscious against the Cavs. But Spurs won a lot of those games just because the three ball was falling, even with Wemby in what was that, game 6 when he shot that half court shot at halftime. So yeah, what are your predictions for the series?
It's tough. I mean, it's like, what does my heart say versus what does my brain say? My heart says that the Spurs just like annihilate the Knicks, win in like 5 or 6. My brain says if any team can kind of expose the Spurs, I think it could be the Knicks, just the way they play and how hot they've been. It's all predicated on like, if the Knicks can continue playing like this, the big advantage for the Knicks is they've been shooting so lights out last series. And the Cleveland is, I wouldn't say a scrub defensive team. Now, do they have kind of scrubs on defense and play a lot of boneheaded guys defensively a lot of times? Yeah, but you have like last year's defensive player of the year and Evan Mobley, and then you also have Jared Allen, and you have competent players on your defensive end, and the Knicks scored 51% from the field in the Eastern Conference Finals. And the big thing is 38% from 3. And we keep on harping how well the Spurs were shooting from 3. If you look at their stats, 34% from 3. So they weren't they were like hot and cold. So the games
it was feast or famine.
Yes, they were very hot. The games in OKC typically, except for like that game 1, very poor. So, and honestly, I thought the Thunder's 3-point percentage, they weren't hitting threes at all. That was kind of what was killing them. And Spurs were taking advantage of it. Like, if you can't hit threes, then we're just going to keep playing off of you and have Wemby just park his butt in the paint, essentially. OKC shot 34.4% from 3. So, slightly above average, not as well as you would want them to shoot, but and I will say the Knicks have way better shooters, and that's kind of how they're constructed. You know, Jalen Brunson kind of does his thing. And Cat, you know, he can stretch the floor. So I assume they're going to put Wemby on Josh Hart. And looking at Josh Hart in the Eastern Conference Finals, he was out of his mind shooting. He shot, I guess for him, I don't know what his season averages are, but 34.6%, almost 35% from the field, or from 3, which for him is very good. And then, of course, you got guys like Shamet, you know. Oh, my gosh, Shamet, dude. 91.7% from 3. 91.7%. Oh, man. So if they can shoot lights out like they have been, yeah, I think that would be the only recipe to beat the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at their other game. The first game they played, I believe, was when Brunson scored 61 points against the Spurs, and it wasn't enough because the Spurs eked it out by 2 points in an absolute barn burner. Hopefully, you had the over on that game, 134, 132. But in the second game, the Knicks kind of trounced Spurs. And looking at the box score, they both shot pretty poorly. The difference was, and it was a huge point in the Oklahoma City series, and we've talked about it even before, just turnovers. Turnovers are like essentially the new three-pointer. And in that game, Spurs had 22 turnovers versus the Knicks 13, and Wemby accounted for 7 of those. And we saw Stephon Castle struggling with a lot of turnovers in that series, especially with De'Aaron Fox out. when he missed the first 2 games, or just the first one.
First
don't
two, he didn't play either.
Yeah, but De'Aaron Fox being back will definitely help ease that burden from Stephon Castle. I also don't think the Knicks have those on-ball defenders that the Oklahoma City have, so that will be easier to manage. But in terms of my prediction, kind of like you said, you were saying your heart says that. My brain says that. I know it's super hard to win in Madison Square Garden, especially in these playoffs. I've been on the wrong side of a couple of those Madison Square Garden games. One of them where I actually took the Knicks. Shout out to the Atlanta Hawks, I guess, for coming back from what was that, 15 points in the fourth quarter. But yeah, I have the Spurs in 5, maybe 6.
Yeah, this one's a tough one. It's like I want to discredit the Knicks, but also the Knicks, like, I know what they could be capable of. I think the big thing, I don't know. This one's a tough one, so I low-key just want to like sit this one out. Like, it could be a really short finals, finish in 5, but I could legitimately see this going to 7 as well. If the Knicks are playing well enough.
I will say, maybe it's a caveat, maybe it's like, well, like no duh, Captain Obvious, but I say if the Spurs hold home court the first 2 games, they'll win in 5. If the Knicks are able to take game 1 or game 2, Knicks won't lose both games at home, so it'll go 6. But if the Spurs can win both games, game 1 and game 2, I have confidence the Spurs will be able to take 1 game.
Both these teams have just played so well at home, so part of me is just like, yeah, dude, like maybe just do the over. Like, these teams don't lose at home. But then, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my pick. I've been hating on the Knicks probably the whole season. Absolutely disgusted they're in the finals. I truly, truly believe that they would have lost to the Boston Celtics if the Celtics decided not to just huck threes nonstop, maybe even without Jason Tatum, but I don't know how serious that injury was. Yeah. But the Knicks, tip your hat to them. They haven't lost a game in, over a month? Easily, month and a half.
This one's a tough one. I low-key just want to like sit on the sidelines and just like see maybe an opportunity. And that might be the best way to play it, because it's like if the Knicks, happen to steal a game, you might get better prices on something. But obviously, I don't know. The numbers that I see just right now on Calcium, like nothing really stands out to me that I'm like, yes, that's like I'm gonna like auto bet. It's this one's tough in my opinion. Cool. Well, I know you said you kind of had to go. I don't know if you legit had to go, if you wanted to talk the trades, in the NFL that just happened.
I'll probably dip, but if you want to stick on, I'm not going to stop you.
Okay, I'll just recap them real quick. Appreciate Spencer. Yeah. We will continue probably for another like 15, 20 minutes. But insane trades happening in the NFL, and you love to see it. I would love to see, honestly, what the odds are for the Super Bowl. I do not suggest betting right now. It's way too early. Too many stuff to happen. Like, for example, these trades. But huge trade. Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns finally escapes Cleveland. Girlfriend Chloe Kim, I believe she's an LA native or currently lives in LA, might have had something to do with it. Probably not, but you never know. Gets traded to the Los Angeles Rams. And let me actually pull up the exact trade details because they were pretty insane. Myles Garrett. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, full trade. Rams get Myles Garrett. Browns get defensive end, who Jared Verse, got to give him credit. He was a Pro Bowler himself. The 2027 first round pick, 2028 third round or second round pick, 2029 third round pick. Essentially, and they view Verse as essentially another first round pick in the deal, which I don't know if they'll keep him. They'll probably trade him for another first round pick, but still, it's like, I believe they traded Sauce. What was Sauce Gardner's trade? Yeah, it's like I've seen these comparisons where it's like Colts had to be sick watching the Myles Garrett trade. Colts paid 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Rams paid 1. I do agree that Myles Garrett is a way better player than Sauce Gardner. Yeah, it's pretty insane that the Rams were able to do this. And it's kind of interesting. Obviously, if Myles Garrett was available, and clearly he was, you make this trade. You maximize your time with Matthew Stafford. I think he could go back-to-back MVP based off of the team he has right now. Obviously, he has to overperform what he did last year. And Drake May is probably going to ball out and be in contention. But insane. For right now, I was going to look up Super Bowl odds. Let's see. Football. Pro football futures. College football. I don't want to see college football. I want to see pro football. Pro football futures. Currently, you have the Rams out on top. Let me share my screen real quick. The Rams are atop as they should be. It's crazy. They went from 11% to 16%. And granted, they've got Myles freaking Garrett, the best defensive lineman in the entire league, the single season sack leader of all time. But 16% is actually crazy. The season is nowhere, like several months from even starting. Wild, but yeah, changes everything. Let me turn my light on real quick. It's starting to get dark. That NFC West division is insane now. I call it the division of death, and rightfully so. It should be called the division of death. You have the Rams, you have the defending Super Bowl champs, Seattle Seahawks, you have the 49ers, who had a down year last year because of injuries, but still made the playoffs. And then you have the Arizona Cardinals. Poor Cardinals. If you're an Arizona fan, yeah, it's going to be another terrible year, and you're going to get a really good draft pick next year. That division is insane. The NFC just got way better. And if you are a fan of the AFC East, is it? Or AFC North? AFC North. I'm still working on my divisions. Yeah, AFC North. You're so super happy that, because the only reason why the Browns are able to beat teams sometimes is because of Myles Garrett and the freaking terrible weather in Cleveland. No offense, I love. It's funny how people love to pump up Shadur, but he pretty much he does suck. Let's be honest. He's a way below average NFL quarterback. So it'd be interesting to see what the Browns do. Also, they still have Deshaun Watson. If they, end up playing him, or if they just give Shadur the long term, for the next season starting quarterback job. But yeah, if you're in the AFC North, you're Joe Burrow. You're cheering right now. You're like, maybe I do stay in Cincinnati because I don't have this guy in Cleveland trying to sack me all the time. And if you're Lamar Jackson as well. So huge news, but that was only one trade. There are 2 trades that happened. The second trade was obviously for you Pats fans, which we all hate you. Glad you lost the Super Bowl. AJ Brown. Let's look at this AJ Brown trade. AJ Brown to the New England Patriots. Let's share my screen real quick. To the New England Patriots. Let me see what the actual. Okay, here we go. Patriots get AJ Brown. Eagles get 2028 first round pick, 2027 fifth round pick. And I think the big thing for the Eagles was obviously AJ Brown. Clearly last season he wasn't happy in Philly. Felt like he wasn't getting his touches. He's getting a lot more touches in New England, I'll tell you that. But also, I believe he had a pretty massive contract. So, actually, dead cap. That is not a good thing. Yeah, so I think this is a good option. The Philly just drafted Mekhi Lemon as well, and who knows, maybe he's going to be another kind of head case similar to AJ. And AJ, he's had his ups, he's had his downs. He's a solid player. He's a number one receiver in the NFL. And the Pats finally get more firepower that they desperately needed. And they thought Stephon Diggs would be that guy. Clearly wasn't. So out goes Stephon Diggs, in comes AJ Brown. But it'll be interesting to see how much of an upgrade AJ Brown is, if he can get to what the level he was at a season or two ago. It'll be interesting. And the offense, it's going to be interesting what it looks like. Yeah, I think they're obviously going to perform really well on it, in my opinion. And AJ Brown is going to get all the freaking touches he wants. So hopefully that works out. I know their coaching situation is very interesting. Who knows if Mike Vrabel is going to be the coach at the beginning of the season with all the scandals and stuff that are going on. I have no idea. But it'll be interesting to see that. And I was going to talk tennis, but Spencer, unfortunately, is gone. F1. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about F1 coming up. Obviously, with the four main sports, obviously, we still have baseball going on, which I've somewhat been keeping track of. But F1 is kind of like in the heat of everything right now. We have Monaco coming up this weekend, and Kimi Antonelli has been just killing it. Kimi and George Russell from Mercedes have been killing it right now. F1 Driver Championship. They have Kimi Antonelli. I can't remember. It's probably like somewhat halfway through the season, F1 season right now. He is killing it. He has a 54% chance of winning the Drivers Championship. And then, of course, Mercedes has a 82% to win the Constructors Championship. They're going to win it. Like, yeah, they would have to completely fall off or like find out that they're, constructing their vehicles like in a cheating way or something like that. So that is something to watch out for. Monaco Grand Prix winner. We have Charles Leclerc leading it at 31%. And like Kimi Antonelli has won, I think, 3 or 4 races in a row. Leclerc has been looking really good. Hamilton, I believe, finished second. And the last Grand Prix, where was that? I can't remember it off the top of my head. I watched it. I think it might have been London. F1 schedule. Let's see here. It was Canada. That's right. Results. Yeah, Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen at third. McLaren did perform very poorly. Yeah, and that's kind of my team, of course, because of the company I work for. It's sponsored by our sponsors, McLaren. And McLaren's pretty sick, let's be honest. Lewis Hamilton, then obviously George Russell, Lando Norris, 11%. Kimi Antonelli's just been killing it. And if you've been, just blindly betting Kimi Antonelli, like you've been raking it in. But is it, you bet on him again? I'm not really sure. It would be interesting to see what like Monaco Grand Prix, like top 5 finishers, podium finishers. Kimi Antonelli's literally at 50%, which honestly, that might not be a bad bet, to be honest. Top 10 finishers. Yeah, Max Verstappen 90 something percent. It'll be interesting to see because I think historically some of these drivers perform well in Monaco. So that's probably why Kimi Antonelli is not necessarily the leader, because I believe last season he was technically a rookie. So something to look out for. And I might be betting a little bit more into F1, little shekels, nickels and dimes here and there, but something to look out for just because I've been, keeping track of it, watching it a little bit more. All right. We'll probably end it there, unfortunately. Yeah, I apologize for the shortened. We were supposed to have a guest here. He unfortunately didn't end up showing up. So that's why we're doing it at this later time. But glad we could get a show in for the finals and bet responsibly. Let's make some money and not lose, like I did last week. All right. Catch y'all later and peace.